So today I want to talk to you about external validation, which is the bane of so many performers' lives. We crave external validation, and yet somehow we only ever hear the criticism and negate all the praise. So we want them to praise us, but when they do, we think that they're just being nice or just being kind, and we don't really get the value out of the feedback we get. I want to talk to you about what that's all about and what you can do to change that. You're listening to the Courageous Performer podcast. I'm Hattie Volker from Find Your True Voice. And if you are a performer in any walk of life, whether you're a singer, actor, public speaker, or just a human being wanting to put yourself out there, and you find that you're overthinking or your worries and your nerves are getting in the way of either you putting yourself out there at all or putting yourself out there in the way that you really truly want to, then you're in the right place. Now, this is my first podcast in a very long time because, as some of you know, my dad died just over a month ago at the end of March, having been quite ill for quite a number of months, and it's been an increasing pressure on me. So apologies for not being around. As a life coach, these are always opportunities for me to learn and grow and understand my triggers and my vulnerabilities. And so I have done an awful lot of thinking whilst all of this has been going on. And one of the things that has really come up for me is how much I value, or I valued and put above my own, other people's opinions. Now, I have talked so often about valuing your own opinion. And what I discovered as all of these challenging things were going on and I was feeling very vulnerable, that when I was in that vulnerable space, I would go back to wanting feedback from other people, wanting positive reinforcement from other people, and getting to the space where I actually felt I needed it and I was struggling without it. And these are always great places for learning, because when you realize you're being triggered, when you're feeling vulnerable, you're more likely to be triggered. You're more likely to go back to old patterns that you really thought you'd got sorted out by now. And what I realized was that I wasn't valuing my own opinion because the old voices had come back in that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough. So I was processing all of this, and then I suddenly came to this realization that when I need something, when I feel the need for someone else to think or feel a certain way about me or what I'm doing, everything goes skewy. Everything goes wrong for me, because I then start behaving in a way in order to get that feedback, to get that reaction. I start modifying my behavior in order to get a certain outcome. And that messes with my head, and it definitely messes with my singing, and it certainly messes with the way I put myself into the world. So what's the answer? What's the key? And the key is something that is incredibly hard to do, but so rewarding if you do it. And that is to let go of the need for other people to behave a certain way in reaction to you, for other people to respond to you a certain way. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean that if I want somebody to want to spend time with me or think that I sang really, really well, then I start doing what I do in order to get that response. And that isn't me being me. And it isn't me being my true performer self. And I start acting in ways that don't align with my beliefs and my values, or my true feelings about myself, and I start to diminish myself. And for me, that has always triggered for me to withdraw. And then my emotions get even bigger than they normally are, and everything goes, as I say, really screwy, and it all feels very out of control. So instead, how do I just let them be them? How do I go, they can be them. I don't need them to be a certain way. Because needing someone to be a certain way is so often pointless and fruitless. Needing your audience to think a certain way about you is hopeless, because you can't make someone think or feel something. You can encourage them to do that. But mostly the best way of doing that is by you being your best self. If you want a positive response, it's about you focusing on what you're doing and not worrying about what they think. And then you get back to this sense of authenticity, but you also get back to doing things well. And more than that, you get to a space where you are actually allowing other people to be themselves. You're not trying to manipulate them to think or feel a certain way. Now, manipulate's a strong word, I realize this. But it is the word I mean, because when we are trying to elicit a certain response from people, we are trying to manipulate them. We're not trying to coax them generally. When we have a specific response we want from them, we're trying to force them to think this way. And that never works. I certainly know that I have pathological demand avoidance. I definitely think for ADHD it's not pathological. I think it's part of our safety mechanism and our protective mechanism. But I definitely, if someone tells me you need to do this, my instant response is, no, I don't. So even when somebody says I need to feel something, I tend to push back against it. And we do naturally, I think all human beings push back against any pressure. Whereas when we coax, when we perform well, when we do it for the love of what we're doing, we do it, and I've talked about all of these things before, we do it for the interest, we do it because we want to communicate, we want to express, we love the music, we have something really interesting to talk about. When we do that, what we're actually doing is we're coaxing people forward. And for those of you who've done my presence course, we're talking about that idea of being in that space where there's equal energy in and out, where people come towards us as an audience because they want to hear what we are performing, whether that's a speech or a song or a dance or whatever. We are coaxing them and they come towards us willingly, and they do it in a way that makes them feel comfortable. If we are needy and want something from them, actually, if you think about this, when you've been with somebody who feels quite needy, we often pull back from them because we feel the pressure of that need. And so we withdraw. So the best way of being when you're performing and in life is to be yourself, to value your opinion of yourself, because that's the one that really matters. And so this is where I come back to external validation. And I also come back to this whole way of how you treat yourself, because how you treat and talk to yourself determines how you think and feel. And so often we are not really aware of how we think, how we talk to ourselves and how we treat ourselves. I certainly wasn't. You might have an inkling that you're not very nice to yourself, or you might just be completely unaware, or you might think you're actually really nice to yourself. But I know that every person I've worked with, when we get down to it, we uncover messages that they tell themselves, ways they treat themselves, which are not kind, which are brutal often. And that determines how they feel in front of an audience, because what we do is we project what we think about ourselves onto our audience and project that they think the same thing. So when we treat ourselves badly and we think these negative things about ourselves, we then think the audience thinks that. So no wonder we fear their judgment and are desperate for positive feedback to negate that, to override that, to prove us wrong, that actually they think we're good enough. And if they think we're good enough, maybe we will start to think we're good enough. It's that whole idea of outsourcing our self-esteem to other people. If we let go of that and go, what is my opinion? That might feel scary, because who are you to say? But the truth is, you're quite a good person to say. Now, I'm not saying you are objective and have the best view, but you have a good view, and your opinion matters more than other people. It doesn't matter to the exclusion of other people's opinions. Other people's opinions can be useful, but what you think is the one that matters most. And if you change your behavior so that you are kind and wise to yourself, and treat yourself with respect, you're more likely to like yourself and respect yourself. And then when you like and respect yourself, your opinions about yourself are more likely to be robust and worth listening to. And they're also not going to be so frightening. Often we don't want to hear our own opinion because mostly we damn ourselves. But actually, when you are kind of respectful to yourself, then your opinion starts to be more valuable because you will be wise. And even if that's, I really messed that up, or I really want to work on this because how my voice sounded there was not how I want it to be. Do you hear? That's still kind and respectful. It's not, oh, that was shit, you need to do better, Hattie. Which is a nasty way of saying, oh, you're never going to get this. You've been like this for so long. Which other voices I do get in my head still. I'm better at pulling them out, like the pensive in Harry Potter. But they do come up. When we treat ourselves kindly and talk to ourselves kindly, then our opinion is more likely to be a valuable opinion. And we're more able then to take on board other people's opinions, because then when other people's opinions chime with ours, we go, yeah, okay, so that was good. Or yeah, so that didn't go down well. And I kind of know the reason. So now I know what I want to work on. And you see, there's no shame in that. We take it all down. So that the emotion is lower and we're more pragmatic, and you actually come out with tools for making it better in the future. So it's that whole idea of treating yourself kindly so that you can let other people have their opinions. You can let them be them. You're not trying to get an opinion from them in order to bolster your self-esteem. You're kinder to yourself so that your opinions are kinder and more worthy. And then you're more able to take on board feedback constructively. I hope that all makes sense. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it. If ever you want to improve your performing, then I'm here. And I have a workshop coming up on Thursday, the 8th of April, called The Joy of Being a Fearless Performer, where I will teach you how to achieve some of these things. As I said, even I'm a work in progress, but my goodness, have I made progress. If I look back to how I was 10 years ago, if I look back to how I was a year ago, 2 years, so much progress with how I feel about myself. But whenever we feel vulnerable, we likely go back to our old patterns, and that's okay. We don't have to be perfect the whole time. But if you'd like to learn how to change the way you think and feel when you perform, then join me for The Joy of Being a Fearless Performer on Thursday. You've been listening to the Courageous Performer podcast. I'm Hattie Volker. Thank you so much.